Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Spooky Town Tales. I'm your host Morgan, and I'm friggin' stoked that you kooky weirdos are back for more. Welcome back, and thank you, all of you, for tuning in and enjoying the first episode and telling me how much you liked it. You have no idea how great that's made me feel, and I'm totally rapt that there's more people out there that are into this stuff and I can talk about it and that you enjoy hearing about it. I've had some great feedback and some really cool messages, some new leads. I've been a very busy girl running around all over the countryside, interviewing people, getting really cool stories. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And also had a few people asking and inquiring about podcast apps and podcast platforms, whether or not we're on there yet. I am not. It's all very fresh. I'm figuring it all out as I go. And because of the awesome feedback, you've basically given me a kick up the arse, and I'm figuring this out. So I'm hoping by episode 4, you'll be able to find me on most podcast platforms. That's my goal. I've set it. I'm going to give it a go. And in the meantime, you can check out the show on the Facebook page. If you search Southwest Paranormal, we will be there every single Friday. I'll be launching the new episodes. And also, I've just set up a YouTube channel. So if you search Morgan Bug on YouTube, you will find last week's episode. And as of right now, Friday night, you will be finding episode 2. And we are talking hauntings. Everything hauntings tonight. There's going to be some of my own personal stories and some pretty friggin' weird stories from listeners. So you're going to enjoy it, but you're going to get spooked too. So hopefully you've got company this evening, because you might have trouble sleeping. And I want to welcome back for round 2, as if round 1 wasn't enough. He's back for more, Jimmy Bug.
Good evening. Thanks for having me back again.
Thank you for agreeing to come back. That's great.
It's a pleasure.
He's my go-to guy, because realising everyone is super busy this week and trying to sort of pin down someone to join me is a mission this week. So I've just said, look, Jimmy, could you do it?
Anything for you.
Oh, thanks. What a man. What a guy. What a trooper. So he's agreed to join me in the spooky seats for another round. Round two. Completely stoked, because it's super weird trying to record. I tried to record an episode on my own, and I just listened back and went, I sound like a complete nut bar.
Not that I help it much, but
you do though, because it's better that I'm talking to someone instead of laughing at my own jokes. I mean, I sound like a complete lunatic. So thanks.
You should be a dad. You can laugh at your own jokes all the time.
I should be a
dad.
Helps. Well, I practically am. I just want to describe to you just how much of it, like I totally am a dad. I'm just going to describe my current outfit just to shatter all illusions of what I might look like whilst recording this. Although I have set up quite a cool little corner for us.
It's a cozy corner.
In our old spooky chairs. We've even got a glowing jack-o'-lantern light here with us. But
beautiful candles. Beautiful
candles. Spooky cat. But I have on probably the best jumper in existence.
It's true. It is. It looks super warm. I'll give you that.
It's about 8 sizes too super warm. That's all it's got going for it, Morgs. Never wear that again.
No.
It's a white sweatshirt, as Americans would call it. We call them wind cheaters. but it's sort of white, but there's patches of grey because it's got stains.
Oh, and some green paint.
And some green paint. But the best bit about it is the front of it has like a moose who's reflected in like a creek, and there's a canoe, and there's like a pine forest behind it. It is the coolest, most daggy, awesome jumper. I can tuck my legs up in it. It's the greatest.
It's fancy.
It's fancy. Don't be jealous.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be intimidated by my fashion.
Can't help it.
Yeah, high fashion over here at Spooky Town Tales. So, yeah, just look out. Look out, Milan. Look out, Paris Catwalk. Anyway, we'll stop shooting the shit and get on with the show. You're not here for jokes. You're here for spooks.
That's right.
So we're going to kick it off. And to start off with, we've got a really cool story. Oh, hang on. Just make sure. I'm just going to check in. Are you all comfortable? Are you with drink in hand? Are you with lights off? I hope so, listeners. Get ready. You better be comfy. You don't want to move. Once we start, we're just going to keep going. So welcome and prepare to be spooked. So straight out the gates, we've received this story from a Donnybrook resident. She is an absolute gem of a girl, Alana. And this first story is called Grandad Says Goodbye. My granddad died when I was 9. We were very close. He lived at the top of the street and we were nearly at the bottom. He'd come down for roast dinner once a week. I'd go up and watch the footy with him and he'd let me eat his fruit and nut chocolate and his licorice bullets. Sometimes he'd pick us up from school if Mum couldn't make it. Anyway, when he died it was a big heartache for the whole family. I still get teary thinking about it. The night after he died, my sister got up to go to the toilet. We had an outside toilet. So, she went out the back door, turned the patio fluorescent light on, it flickered a few times and then revealed a smoky apparition that looked like Grandad's silhouette. It appeared for a brief few seconds and then it was gone. I believe it was him saying goodbye. For years after his death, if I felt down at any point, suddenly I'd be able to smell his house. You know how houses have a particular smell about them? It was an old asbestos house that Grandad had lived in for a few years. The smell kind of reminded me of sweet biscuits and his aftershave. Brute.
The essential.
The essential. Brute and Old Spice. I believe he was trying to comfort me. It worked most of the time. It made me smile at least. As I got older, I've never forgotten him. The last time I smelt that smell was a few years ago now. How I'd love to smell it again. That's a really nice story.
It's a lovely story.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and regards to phantom smell, what was your grandparents' house smell?
It was normally baked goods of some inscription, but yeah, it was very noticeable. You know your own grandparents' smell of their house.
Yeah.
Something you can't forget.
Yeah. Well, my nana and Tapper, it was always Jubes, and she'd make these chocolate kisses, and they always and the choc chip peanut biscuits, and you knew when you pulled up, you could smell like she'd baked for us coming.
Yeah.
It was always the best. And minties and ripe raspberries. She'd always keep a lolly jar with minties and ripe raspberries in the same jar. And you'd think, it wouldn't really be that great a combo. But I tell you what, folks, get out there, buy a pack of minties and ripe raspberries, eat them together. It is delicious. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe it's a sentimental thing. But my God, so good.
I can't imagine how that would taste.
I don't know.
The amount
I'm not
of years-
maybe not together because you got the super chewiness of a
Yeah.
minty with the softness of but have them like close together, like raspberry first, then a minty, and it's quite the flavour. I've considered creating a cake. I'm a bit of a cake maestro.
Yeah, you are. You're
like
one of the best.
I like to invent new flavours, and everyone has a few misses, but
Few and far between with you,
oh
darling.
no, I've had a few flat cakes. Let's just say that much. Now, on the note of phantom smells, I've got a little bit of info about the folklore behind it.
It is funny though. Like you mention it now. You do have at times where you just get a random smell, which you honestly, you look around yourself and you go, there is nothing that could possibly make that smell.
Yeah, where's it come from?
Yeah, and it does creep up on you. I mean, I've been in the shed and there's a lot of smells that have been burnt in there that you cannot. But then you occasionally get a waft or something and you go, that can't come from my shed.
Yeah, that's not a shed smell.
And
that could just be my cooking wafting down, though.
Yeah, more than likely.
More often than not, when Jimmy's in his shed, like when he goes in there, you're just like, that's him. You know, he's in his shed, and so I quite often go into my baking frenzy because that's my happy place. So like he's cooking up a storm in the shed, I'm cooking up a storm in the kitchen, and that's how I lure him back to the house. Like waft food out the back door.
Works every time.
But basically what I've read about smells and phantom smells. Which totally relates to things that a lot of other experiences and stories that I've heard, is quite often when you smell roses or flowers, that's quite often associated with like angels, people having sort of spiritual kind of experiences. Or like people who have had like religious encounters or have claimed to have seen the Virgin Mary, all these bizarre or stigmatics. Quite often it's associated with the smell of jasmine and honeysuckle and beautiful flowers, whereby negative entities, you get this shitty, sulfury, death's rotting meat smell. Which we have smelt a deathly, horrible, rotting meat smell just before something really awful happened, and we couldn't figure this out. So Alana, I totally believe that your smell. I will read a scientific explanation as to why it could possibly have been not paranormal, but I really do believe, especially with regards to your grandfather's smell, I think that is him visiting you, because we had one that I cannot explain, and
no, we did turn the house upside down.
We turned it upside down,
and that was pretty.
And it's not a smell that can be a perfume or so. It wasn't a pleasant smell. We had a horrible smell wake us up at like 11 o'clock at night, and it was the smell. It was that horrible sulfur, death smell, like rotting meat smell, so strong that I literally thought. I said to Jimmy, I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, finally, like it's happened. Because all the cats in the neighbourhood hang out in our garden, because we've got quite a nice garden, and they hang out in the garden. I'm like, oh my God, one of the cats has gone into the house and died.
But wasn't that though? You could smell it was different to
it
that
was
sort
different.
of
It was worse
rotting carcass.
It was worse. It had a chemically...
Yeah, more chemically. That's a good description. It was more...
And it literally was wafting up from under the floorboards. So we were in bed. It woke me up. I woke Jimmy up and I said, you smell, like, you know.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets really friggin' scary and weird. So I woke up to this smell and I leant down because I felt sick from the smell. And I looked down the side of the bed and there was this black mass. It looked like my dog. We had a big black Labrador Rottweiler. And he even had Mastiff. He was a massive, beautiful big boy, and he was jet black, and he was quite large. Yeah. And I looked down to my left, and I honestly thought it was him lying there, but it felt weird. It's the same as every experience that I've had. You get this weird, something doesn't feel right. You feel a bit sick. You get like a pressure in your chest. And you saw me sitting up and looking.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I held up my arm and I wafted it down to touch this thing, thinking it was Horton, and my hand would just push straight through it, and then it sort of just disappeared like smoke. And that freaked me out to the point I jumped up, ran to the light, turned it on, and that's when you were like, we need to find out what the hell this smell is.
Yeah.
And we couldn't find anything.
Trying. Yeah, you could smell it only in areas, but it moved. It did feel like it moved.
It moved and then it disappeared.
Yeah.
Once we were up, it disappeared. And then this is what sealed the deal for us to realise this wasn't just a phantom smell. Like it wasn't a sight. There wasn't just a dead thing being dragged around by something. Because the following day, our dog died.
Yeah.
And that was like, for me, that was maybe, I don't know, it was too coincidental.
Very coincidental.
The fact that I thought it was him next to the bed, but it wasn't, and then he died the following day, and he died of a sudden heart attack, so it wasn't like he'd been sick or anything. Yeah. He just had heart failure. It was very, very sad, very, very sudden. So that for me confirmed that, yes, Alana, phantom smells, they're not always explained away. But for those skeptics out there that sort of would like to hear, yes, there is a very, very accurate sort of description as to why people smell these things. So I will just read you I read an article. It was from Teresa's Haunted History of the Tri-State. Now, she's an expert on these sorts of things. And she's just explained that, Dr. Hoffman of the Medical Consumers Advocate says that smell is a chemical sense. That means when you smell something, your brain is perceiving specific airborne molecules. These molecules bind to the receptors of the olfactory bear with me, epithelium, which is the tissue that lines the back of the roof and the nasal cavity. Nerve impulses are generated, which travels first off to the olfactory bulb, then to other areas deeper in the brain. Now that leaves a lot of room for things to go wrong.
Absolutely.
Basically, a smell is an unreliable kind of
source of brain signal.
It gets determined and mixed up. The signal of scent can get mixed up very easily. Yeah. Especially, this is where I was very sick at the time. Well, I'd been not very well. I'd had some sinus things when we experienced our own creepy smell. Yeah. So when I read this, I went, I wonder if that had something to do with it. But then you had it too.
I could smell it, but it was far more faint than
what I was experiencing.
Noticeable.
Yeah, but odd that we both smelt it. Yeah. But it does say here that things like sinus infections can affect this. Also, if you suffer from epilepsy or have psychiatric disorders, I can confirm I don't have any psychiatric disorders.
I may.
Never been diagnosed anyway. But I did have basically what it says is that it's the same senses that are used with smell can be faulty, and you can have basically a hallucination but in smell form, if that makes sense. Yeah. So much like we hallucinate, you can have a hallucination that's a smell. A smallucination. Which I didn't know that was a thing, but it is. It's because it is one of our neurological senses, and it's from the source to the brain. Shit gets fucked up.
Well,
just to put it lightly.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So there you go. So it could have been paranormal, Alana. It might not have been, but I think it was your granddad popping in. That's my opinion. What do you think?
You can't say yes or no either way without experiencing.
But what do you feel in your heart?
From my sceptical brain, I can't explain it. It's not explainable, but I would believe, either and either, really. It's a fence sitter.
Pretty cool that it correlated when she was needing comfort, that it would pop up.
Yep.
That's pretty nice, Alana.
Very nice.
And she's got another story here. So this one, she's called Growing Up. When I was growing up, we lived in a little old fibro house in Donnybrook. Many an unexplained thing happened in that house, but luckily never to me. My mum and my sister were the main people that the ghost didn't seem to like. Sucked in, mum and sister.
Yeah.
When mum and dad were first married, they hadn't any kids yet, and they got in a fight one night. Then mum went to sleep in the spare room, which later became Alana's sister's room. Mum was laying awake, reliving the argument, as you do when you have a bit of a tiff with your lover, thinking of things she could have said better, etc. And I'm sure we all do that.
Of course.
Yep. When all of a sudden she couldn't move. She was laying on her back with what felt like an elephant on her chest. She couldn't breathe or move or say anything. It sounds like sleep paralysis, except she wasn't asleep at the time. She hadn't even been to sleep yet. It lasted for what felt like forever, but was really only about 10 seconds or so. She jumped up and went straight back to bed with Dad. Fair enough. Good call. Good call, Mum. Years later, my sister, she was about 12-ish, was sitting on the couch in the lounge room when with the rest of the family. We were watching one of two channels on offer at the time. All of a sudden, something sat on her. She couldn't breathe, move, or speak. 10 seconds later, she got up and jumped into another chair and started bawling. Mum had no idea what had happened as we were watching TV. When she explained it to Mum, then Mum told her what had happened to her years ago. So same exact experience in, I think, the same
But
room.
daytime, which is quite... Yeah.
It wasn't daytime, I don't think.
Oh, sorry.
No, the girl was 12.
Oh, it's right.
Then when my sister was 4, she had a nasty cold in the middle of winter, and we lived just 2 doors up from the creek, so it was quite damp air. Mum set up the fold-out bed in front of the fire. In the middle of the night, Mum wakes to my sister prodding her. "What's wrong?" Mum asked. "Why did you pack up the bed?" my sister asks. Mum is confused as hell because she didn't pack the bed up. She goes out into the lounge room with my sister to find the bed and all the bedding gone. Mum is baffled. She goes to the linen cupboard and finds the fold-out bed is back in the cupboard where it belongs with the plastic cover back over it. The bedding's been folded and put back where it's usually kept. I don't know what Mum said to my sister about it all, but what the hell do you say to... How do you explain that to a kid?
I don't even know where to start with that one. I can sort of like the mum to begin with. Yes, after an argument you do get quite heated, but that if you were already tired, sleep paralysis, yeah, you're in the vagaries. But
if you were asleep though,
yeah,
sleep paralysis can't hit unless you've
no,
been
exactly.
in
But you don't know if you've fallen asleep yet, if you've had a full-on night. But the rest.
But then why did the same thing happen to the sister?
Exactly.
That's very odd. And someone's packing up a bed and putting it away.
Unless they're efficient and they're cleaning up the
Oh,
house.
you know what? It could be worse. It could be, at least they're tidying up. At least they're tidy ghosts.
True.
They're not trashing the joint. Wow, that's really cool. Thank you, Alana, for those stories.
Unlike the ghost from Hollywood.
What ghost from
They
Hollywood?
mess up the
Oh, yeah, the ghosts in Hollywood. Dirty mongrels, I tell you what. Blood on the walls.
Just trashing the
They
joint.
just trash the joint. Thank you for those stories, Alana. Now, Alana's got a few more that I'll be sharing in coming weeks. She's had a lot of experiences. I'd say Alana might be a bit of a sensitive.
Some would say.
Or like myself, that sort of attracts these things, because we've had chats before about this sort of thing. So, yes, looking forward to sharing more of your stories in the coming weeks. Now, I've also had a really good mate of mine, Joel Thomas. Sir Joel. Hope you're listening, Joel. He sent me a really cool one about a ghost car, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, we could all wish we had one.
A ghost car. Christine. A Christine. Now, this one's pretty cool. Now, Joel at the time was working for Noongar Radio. I'm not quite sure where that is. I think that's like near... I'm pretty sure it was near Serpentine area. Maybe I'm completely wrong. So he was working for Noongar Radio. I'll read you the story. You ready?
Yeah.
Ready for the ghost car?
Go for it.
I was working the breakfast shift at Noongar Radio with 2 others at 5 a.m. From my desk in the newsroom, I saw a car come down the radio station driveway. I went to the door to see who it was, and the car had completely disappeared. The entire driveway was visible from the newsroom, so it was impossible for the car to have driven out without having been seen. It literally just vanished. I was baffled by what I'd just seen when the breakfast announcer popped his head out of the studio and says, "Hey, where did the car go? It's like it just disappeared." We were all weirded out by that one. That's pretty weird.
Yeah, it's very... You can't hide a car.
And like if you're in the work, like you're at work and you're doing your usual thing in the morning, and like you're not in a graveyard and you're not expecting to see something weird. You're at work, you're getting yourself ready for the day, and not just you, but like everyone else there has seen a car.
Would make it so much worse having other people see it as well.
So much worse. You could at least go, well, it's 5 a.m. and like, and maybe, you know, you could say Joel might have been up having a few tinnies, you know, the night before, which, you know, we're all guilty of.
But someone else coming out and saying they'd seen exactly the same thing.
Yeah, Joel, that's a cool story.
Good one.
It's a bloody good one. Hey, Joel, if you've got any stories from out Quirting way, I'd love to hear them. Joel grew up in Quirting. Good old Quirting. Quirting represent.
That's out there.
Yep. So if you've got any, your mum, she'd have some good stories, no doubt. I love Sharmy. Right. So that's a pretty cool story. And Joel, thanks for the tip. He pointed me in the right direction. I had no idea, but Donnybrook has had its very own Bigfoot sighting. Well, we call them Yowies.
Sam Squanch.
Sam Squanch. It's a goddamn Sam Squanch. Yep. Did you hear that, folks? We've had our own Bigfoot sighting at the tip. Goodwood Road. If you live on Goodwood Road, which I know someone that lives on Goodwood Road, lock your doors. There's a Bigfoot about. 2011. So I'll be covering that in the upcoming Cryptids episode. You can hear more about the Bigfoot sighting that we had. I bet.
Where were you?
Where was
2011 ish. Out of curiosity.
Good one, Jimmy. Jimmy makes this joke because in the in the description, the ape-like creature had long red matted hair. So thanks, Jimmy. Nice to hear you think so highly of me. Right, on to the next. Are you ready for some more spooky tales?
Go for it.
The next one comes from Walloona.
Ooh.
Now, did you live in Walloona, or was it just no?
No. It's halfway between Esperance and Broome, so.
Well, Jimmy's been transient. Most of he's kind of lived all over WA.
General gypsy.
He's a goddamn gypsy. Anywhere that the population had to be below 100.
It's the only safe place.
He doesn't like people. He's not a people person.
Nope.
The less people, the better. So this one took place at the Walloona Shire Building. But let me just give you a bit of history, because this particular building has also been the Walloona Public Hospital, the Walloona Rifle Club and Roll of Honour, Lakeway Hospital, site of, the Walloona Shire Office, and now I apologise for my pronunciation, Jakubra Art Gallery.
Nice.
So the building was built in 1933/34. They kind of lost track, I guess. There's no specific year. Just, I don't know. They're pretty chilled out. that sort of in that neck of the woods. So this building had a lot of history, a lot of deaths, a lot of Indigenous deaths, as it had been a hospital. So basically, from what I've been told, the building was in like a big U shape, and there was a courtyard in the middle, and part of the building was a big ballroom. And the ballroom had been converted into a museum that had a lot of the local history, like artifacts, documents, all kinds of things in there. But it was locked because it was a museum. There was lots of valuables in there. The Shire employees were the only ones with the key to there.
Yeah, makes sense. You got to lock that stuff up.
You got to lock that stuff up. People can blow into town and nick all your stuff. So certain people had a key to this ballroom, and at the very back of the ballroom was a control room that had all your sort of circuit breakers and your internet crappy stuff, all the...
It was like a server room from what we were told.
Like a server room. And what would happen whenever there was a power failure or whatever, someone would have to then go to the back of the building, into the ballroom, into this server room, reboot the televisions and everything to get everything going again, basically. So, on this particular day, there'd been a bit of a storm. It was very overcast and gloomy, very spooky kind of a day. And there obviously had been a power surge. So Peter had to go to the ballroom to reset the televisions. So now Peter is a mega skeptic before.
Yeah.
He's told me before this happened, he kind of was on the fence. So he's walked down, unlocked the door to the ballroom, and he started walking through the middle of where all the museum exhibits are. And as he approaches the server room, he hears a voice say, this is how he says it, clear as crystal, "Hello." Very eloquent. "Hello." So loud that he turns around. He's like, holy shit, because he's not expecting anyone in there. No one should be in there.
Yeah.
To find nobody.
In there. Just like he expected.
Nobody. There was nobody. There was nothing.
That's pretty scary.
Right in his ear.
Mm.
Yeah. That's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Yep. And so he, needless to say, very, very rapidly flicked all the lights on, rebooted the televisions, and got the shit out of Dodge. Yeah. So that kind of was the turning point for Peter, I think.
Yeah, I mean, these sorts of things would happen and they'll change your mind. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that I would have had any form of belief in it unless I had met you and experienced the small things we've had for me. But it's enough.
On small things we've had, high five. We're assuming it was a listener has listened to the podcast, the first episode, and decided to, jump the fence is the only way I can think.
It's the only way I can see.
And they've knocked 3 times on the door the other night. It was about 9 o'clock at night, and it wasn't just a knock, it was a pound.
Yeah.
So they've wanted to make their point. So high five if you're listening and it was you. Very good. Good job. Anyway, so, yeah, this Wiluna Shire office, also apparently there's been a matron seen walking the hallways in a white dress by multiple people. Because apparently there's a section of it that is like they let people stay there from out of town. Wiluna's got quite a low population. So this particular Shire building was used as accommodation, I think, for certain people, or was offered. And then there was one night there was some people staying in the section where they sleep, and all of them who were in separate rooms had said, "Oh, who was the lady that was checking on us in the night?" So old matron's still checking in, making sure everyone's okay. And another person had said they'd heard like a trolley, like, you know, in hospitals, so you can hear the trolleys
like
rolling.
The wheels that kick around a bit.
Yeah, apparently not just this particular person. Apparently that's, they kind of went, oh yeah, that happens. You know, people hear that all the time. A matron in a white dress.
Another friendly ghost, being helpful, checking on people.
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing.
It's better than the alternative.
True.
Yep. But I'm going to tell you a story now about a not-so-friendly ghost. So if you're by yourself, I'm sorry. But this happened in Perth. This is in the house that I said in the previous episode was probably the most haunted house I've ever lived in. And that's saying a lot. I've lived in many creepy places. But this one, without a doubt, was terrifying to live in. You never felt comfortable. And I actually wasn't living there yet. This is how crazy I am. This happened before I lived there, and I moved into that house after this happened.
Who's a glutton for punishment now?
I'm a bloody glutton for punishment. Well, I guess I was of the opinion, it won't bother me there if I'm sleeping there. So leading up to this, my sister had already told me that the night before, or a couple of nights before, because I'd gone over there to help her make jewellery for a rockabilly market, which was happening like that weekend. So we were making like little cute dice earring and all that sort of thing. Yeah. We'd been in the kitchen, and then we were now in her bedroom. And she'd already told me before that the other night she'd seen her door was shut, and then she'd seen like a black shadow come past the door. She could hear footsteps. Now the roommates weren't home. They were all out. And then she saw a dark shadow sweep like across, you know when you see something pass? Yeah, it's a 1920s house, and the doors don't quite touch the floor. You got a good gap below them, and the hall light was on, and she saw this dark shadow go across the light of the door and then almost stick like a hand under the door and sweep like a swoosh, and then the door pinged open.
Whoa. And
it swung, and she said she just froze,
as you would,
and just tried to ignore it. But she was like, okay, look, what the fuck was that? And so she'd already told me this story. So, I mean, I kind of was like, oh, it might have been the wind. No, it wasn't the wind. I'd already felt things in the house. I will go into more. There's so much to tell about this house. But this particular story, I just wanted to share the skit.
Like
share the skit?
No.
Maybe scare the shit?
Yeah, that's better.
That's what I was trying to say. There we go. Scare the shit out of you guys. Are you scared?
With my backwards talking.
With my backwards talking. I've been with you for too long.
I know.
I've caught his...
Contagious garbage talking-itis.
I've caught his garbage talking-itis. Anyway. Back to the story, folks. So we're sitting on my sister's bed in her room, and to give you a bit of an idea, there's like a big L-shaped hallway outside of her bedroom door. So her door faces into the sort of bottom of the L, if you will. And there is another bedroom off to the right where there's a doorway in the bottom of the L. So we are standing in her room packaging things up, and then we start hearing footsteps coming up the hall. And we're like, okay, Jade must have come back from Melbourne. But like, no, but she's in Melbourne till like Sunday. What the hell? Who's walking up the stairs? It was only my sister and Jade living in the house at the time. And we can hear the footsteps. Then we hear it in the kitchen, and we hear like a chair pull out, like proper drag. We're like, oh, it's okay, it's just Jade. And then I think it got so far as Amber might even have messaged Jade or checked her Facebook or something to see where she was. And we're like, okay, Jade's not home. Now, bit of a backstory. The house we were living in, there was a drug dealer next door.
No.
And you would get regular weirdos try and get into the house thinking that we were the drug house. So we were ready. So we're like, okay, there's a junkie. They think we're the drug house. We grabbed weapons. I believe it was a vacuum. Amber had I think she had a bat under her bed. I think I grabbed a part of a vacuum or something. But I was like, okay, I'll go out first, and then we'll just go out swinging.
Scare a junkie out of the house.
Scare a junkie with a vacuum cleaner. So we're sitting on the bed, and we thought we'll just wait and hear what happens. And then we can hear the footsteps. They're coming up the hall. They're getting louder. We can hear the floorboards creaking. And then sure enough, we see the shadow under the door, because we've only got a lamp on. We see the shadow under the door, and I'm like, holy shit, there's someone at the door. There's someone there. It's on. Like, we got to go. So we both stood up with our weapons and start walking, like, literally her stomach's on my back. So we're like, together, walking up to the door to open it. And I'm like, okay, on the count of 3. And so 3, 2, 1, I whip the door open, and we both look out, and then we look down the hall to the left, so down like the top bit of the L, which goes down into the bathroom. It's a really long hallway, and the light was off, so we're looking down into darkness, just freaking out, and there is nobody there. Absolutely nobody. And then as we both turned our heads to look to the right, in the doorway of this other bedroom is this black blob, like this black mass. Like, I've never seen. I'm looking straight at this thing, and as we both turned to look at it, felt like so sick, and it rushed at us, and it pushed, like, literally this black blob just rushed towards us, hits me, and I fling back into Amber, and we fall back into the room.
Whoa. Fucking
terrifying. Now that's the first time I've seen like a shadow thing, a shadow person, and this was at 9 o'clock at night. No, I wasn't drunk. I wasn't on drugs. Nor was my sister. We were preparing for a market. The hall light was on in the bottom of the L. So the hall light was off in the top of the L, but the light was on behind where this thing was standing. So we couldn't even mistake it. It was a massive black mass. And so where we thought we'd be safe, the top end of the hall, where the light was on, that's where this thing was standing. It was a black blob about the height of a human, and it rushed at us and literally threw me backwards.
Yeah. I got nothing.
I've tried for years to work out what it could have been. I can't figure it out.
That's pretty freaky, you know that?
It's pretty freaky. So if you are trying to rent a house in Perth, if you see a very cheap rental, because let me tell you, it was bloody cheap rental, do not rent it unless you want to have this sort of thing happen. And yes, after this happened, this bloody idiot rented. I moved in.
I'll have me some of that.
Guess what room I moved into? The one that I'd seen the blob standing outside of. Yep.
Always up for a challenge.
I'm always up for a challenge. Another super creepy thing that sort of started in this particular house was that not only myself, but I think it was up to 3 or 4 different people when using the bathroom area got completely creeped out on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the blokes that lived in the house, he literally would run from the end of the hall through to the toilet to go to the toilet. He couldn't be in that area for as long as like 5 seconds. He just had to get in, get it done, and then run back up the hall. So when you'd hear him going to the toilet in the middle of the night...
Be rapid ablutions.
Rapid ablutions. Several people felt someone watching them in the shower.
Whoa.
I used to feel like someone was standing right up against the shower screen, like the shower curtain. The shower curtain will move because of steam, and you can find scientific reasons for that, but it was this overwhelming. You'd be like in the middle of washing, and then you get this heavy...
presence.
Sick feeling, much like I felt before I saw the blob.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
Sick feeling. You'd see people out the corner of your eye or in the mirror, like in the bath behind you. It was horrible. But regarding mirrors and seeing things in mirrors or glass, there's this thing called matrixing. Now, matrixing is a trick that your brain plays basically on you, and it's a survival thing that's been evolved. There is a scientific term for it. Let me just rifle through my papers and find it.
Yeah.
But basically what it is you will look for familiar shapes and patterns in objects. Yeah. So you look at a bush, you'll see a face.
Yeah.
Or an outline of a predator. It's a survival thing that's evolved.
Yeah. So your brain's already trying to hunt for hidden dangers.
Yes.
It's already onto it. And
you can also get this in an audible form. So running water, electricity, like an air conditioner. You can hear voices and shouting, and some people claim to hear all kinds of things.
Funny you should say running water. Your showers are generally pretty
used
to be pretty short because of that.
They're the absolute worst. I used to swear I heard the babies crying every time I was in the shower.
So it'd be like a on, off. Oh. Are you okay?
No, is everyone okay?
Everyone's fine.
Who hurt themselves? Who's crying?
Back in the shower.
Every single friggin' shower for like 4 whole years. It was the pits. It was the absolute pits. But yes, so that's matrixing. So you can have that both with your eyes and also with your ears. And I mean, similar to what we were talking about with smells earlier.
Yeah.
Where you can be tricked. You can hallucinate.
Yeah.
But it's not really, it's sort of like... It's just what our brain's programmed to do.
Already pre-programmed, yeah.
It's just to recognise faces.
Yeah.
But this story, my sister told me in her current house. So it makes me wonder whether she's brought, as she calls him, bathroom creep from one house to another.
Because you don't want to bring a bathroom creep
anywhere.
Never.
So bathroom creep is the term now, thanks to her, that I use for anything related to bathroom, shadows in the bathroom. I've heard a few stories sent in about bathroom creeps. I won't do a whole episode on bathroom creeps, but I've seen shadows on the shower curtain and thought it was you coming in, because Jimmy likes to pop in when I'm having a shower and
take it where you can get
have a chat around the curtain. And in a house where you have children, there is no privacy at all.
No,
none at all. So I always leave the door open, and I've seen shadows and heard. But then again, I put it down to the steam from the shower and the window behind them.
Yeah, we got a window in the laundry in the next room. So if you get like a bird or the tree branch move in front of it.
But the mumbling was weird, but that might have been matrixing, but I heard very distinct behind the curtain. It was like, what? I thought it was Clara, because she likes to do villain voices.
Yeah,
and I thought maybe it's Clara trying to scare me, but there was no one there. But try explaining this one away with matrixing, or with the sniffly one that we talked about. The sniffly one is a technical term. So my sister and her partner have both seen a man behind them in the shower, in the bathroom, in the mirror, when brushing their teeth. And he stands, like, leers in the hallway, watching them. And you know what they say he looks like?
What?
Bob from Twin Peaks.
Oh, gross.
The creepy guy. With black hair. Now, not only have they seen him in the mirror, but seen him watching her shower through the shower curtain.
Yeah, that's really gross.
How gross is that?
Especially if you're both seeing the same thing. Again,
you've both seen it. And they hear, like, pacing at night outside their bedroom, because their bedroom door is adjacent to the bathroom door.
Yeah.
And they hear someone and something moving around out there.
Yeah, that's
so explain that one away. So this wasn't this wasn't just like a weird face in the steam on the mirror, like where your eyes can trick you. This was an actual, like, she could see all of his face, that he looked exactly like Bob from Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I mean, like we've discussed before, it's funny how, like, as so many of them, you can't physically differentiate what they look like. It's more of a passing, a glimpse.
Yeah. So you can kind of disregard it as paranormal because you think, it's just my eyes playing tricks on me.
But if you can actually get detail, that's pretty intense. That's proper scary.
And regarding bathroom creeps, Eden had already also told me a story about someone they knew, I think one of Scott's work colleagues, who also had in her parents' house a face with a moustache pressed against the glass while she was in the shower. A moustache, like it was that distinct.
So you would never be able to pick facial hair to that degree.
No.
Like, you could understand a beard because it's such a big mass. Whereas a moustache, that's pretty minute detail.
It's pretty gross.
Ugh, gross.
Totally gross. You'd never be able to shower and...
No.
Like, I can't... I struggle with keeping this... I don't like showering with the curtain all the way shut. I feel a bit creeped out that there's something behind the curtain all the time. Imagine, like, a clear shower. I hate clear shower glass. I do.
Yeah, they're not great.
Because of the hole, you can see weird things in the steam, and it doesn't help that our kids write messages on our mirror, so when it steams up, you're like, oh my God. Thanks, guys.
It's nothing mean, though, at least. There's nothing like, I'm going to get you.
Oh, here's the technical term. It's called pareidolia. So that's what it's called, in case you guys were wondering if you wanted the scientific term. And it's a tendency to interpret a vague stimulus as something known to the observer, such as seeing shapes in clouds, seeing faces in inanimate objects, or abstract patterns. You can also hear hidden messages in music. I hear screaming and crying in the shower. It's very relaxing for me. So relaxing. So that's what that is. So if you're in the shower and you get creeped out, just think it might be pareidolia before you think there's a creepy man with a moustache pushing his face up against the glass for a
But if it's a moustache, it's a bit more creepy. I can't explain
the moustache makes everything creepier.
It's true.
Just try it out. Put a moustache, creepier and funnier.
It's true.
Now I've got one more story. I better wrap this up quickly because we're running out of time. This one comes from a Northcliffe resident, but this happened abroad. In a place called Muck Wenlock in Shropshire. I've probably said that wrong, but it's a town famous for coalport china. I believe it's near the border of Wales, which could explain the Muck Wenlock name.
I'm not even going to try that.
If you're Welsh, I'm sorry, I've probably got the pronunciation wrong. Message me and correct me, please, because I like to learn. I'm always learning, never too old. So basically what happened was they were travelling the UK and they came across this town in Shropshire, thought this is a lovely little place, we'll stop here and stay a few days. It was very, very cold, bristly cold. So the husband said, I'm going to pop in the pub for a lager.
As you would.
So, smart man. So he got out of the cold and hopped into the pub. And Loretta, the wife, had said, well, I'm going to go sightseeing, have a quick stroll around the town, check it out, and then I'll come back and have a drink with you. So she was having a little stroll around this town, and then she noticed a large group of kids coming out of a building. And they were coming out of like a little gate. The weird thing was she noticed they were all in very old-fashioned style clothing. Yeah. But they were en masse. She said there was 20 plus kids. So not one or two.
No, that's a full classroom of kids.
A full classroom of kids, all chatting, giggling, laughing. They all seemed very joyful.
Yeah.
Large group of kids. So they came out of this little gate and were walking down the opposite side of the road. She saw every single one of them, but what was weird was there was something off about them. And she thought, why aren't they rugged up? It's freezing. They're in like European summer clothes. So that was her first alarm, was they need more clothes. And then she thought, they're obviously in costumes walking to a hall or something to do a play because of the state of their clothing. It was very old-fashioned clothing. But she remembers thinking, maternal instincts kicking, they should be rugged up. They shouldn't, they must be freezing. So then they head off down the road and she heads back to the pub and starts telling the husband, there must be a play on. I saw this large group of children. And then the bar woman says, did you see the children? Like, all mystical and, like, confused, and she'd gone white, like, really spooked out. She's like, I saw a bunch of kids. Is there a play on? Like, where's it happening, and what's it all for? And then the barwoman says, no, there isn't a play. There is no children. This is something that only very few people, like, throughout like heaps and heaps of people,
forever.
large amount of time.
Yeah.
There's this folklore in the town that there's been sightings of this massive group of children.
That's cool.
But they're not there. It's not real children. They're just someone keeps like randomly here and there every few years someone will see this group of children on. Obviously it's to do with, I don't know, a certain time of the year.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But how cool is that?
That's really cool.
So thank you for the story, Michelle, for sending that through about your friend Loretta. I love that story.
That's really cool.
It's really, really
It's
cool.
just one of those ones that, it'd be more weird being in such a completely random town as well and having someone go, oh, hang on.
Yeah, what? You saw the children? Like, I've been trying to see the children for years.
Yeah,
you just blow in here, you damn Aussie, you Aussie. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. But I have seen people and spoken to people thinking they were people.
Yeah.
And they've not been there. Like we had a ghost customer at Subway Warwick. If you're from the northern suburbs, good old Subway Warwick. Not just me. Yeah. It happened to my sister. It happened to another staff member. We all have seen a customer come in.
Yeah.
He was huge, the one I saw, and it was peak hour. There was like 12.
What sort of sub does a
non-existent? I'm sure you can, before the end of the episode, think of a good joke there, a dad joke there, a ghost sub. I'm sure you can come up with something.
Nah, too much on the spot.
Extra ghost peppers.
See? Done. Job done.
Yeah, so he was huge, and I'd sort of turned to grab the bread out the oven. I said, sorry, sir, I'll be with you in a moment. I've just got to get the bread out. Looked him straight in the eye.
Yeah.
Felt creeped.
Yeah.
Because he looked a bit creepy. Like, got the same vibe. It's a weird look. They've got a weird look about him. I'm getting the bread out, and I turn. I'm like, what type of bread would you like? And he's gone.
Whoa.
And so he'd be about 20 metres from the front of the store where the door is, and the door beeps every time it opens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the lady next to him, the customer that was in front of him, looked at me white and said, don't worry, I saw him too.
Whoa, so there's other customers
Yes.
as well. Wow, that's pretty cool.
So that was bloody weird.
Yeah.
My sister had the same thing on like a completely different day.
Yet again, it makes it
because you're
worse.
on autopilot.
Yeah,
you're working.
When a stranger can, like someone who you don't know, can point it out as well.
Yeah.
It's the same with all the other ones, like with Joel in the car. If someone else points it out,
it makes it so much
It's
worse. Better but worse.
Yeah, at the same time.
You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Shit,
that was real, but not.
Yeah. So that was, when I've seen full body apparitions, you think they're real.
Yeah.
And then something weird will happen. Although they've always got their eyes are always wrong.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
I mean, I'm saying this as someone who's I can't recall experiencing one.
You never know.
But
I
never know.
Have.
Exactly. But if, I've never picked up on it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear that that's the sort of thing that sets them off, is that a weird facial positions. It's
something like an emptiness.
Yeah, like hollowness to them.
And you kind of get this heavy feeling on your chest, you get like like your defenses are
heightened. Yeah.
Like when you're walking down a dark street, and you're feeling you're sort of on your defense, like.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You get that. It's instant though.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah. Creepy.
Cool.
Now on that note, it's time to bid you farewell. I really appreciate all of you for tuning in again for episode 2 of Spooky Town Tales. Be sure to tune in next week for episode 3. I haven't decided which specific theme it will be yet. I'm currently compiling them all into episodes, so you'll just have to check our Facebook page, like and share to anyone that you think will enjoy it. And yes, we're on YouTube, so if you prefer to listen there, make sure you check it out. And thanks again for all your feedback. And please, if you've got a spooky tale to tell, you know the gal to send it to. So send it on through. Message me on Facebook. Anything else to add, Jimmy?
No, not at all. Thanks again. And yeah, we'll see how we go next time.
Yeah. Until then, guys, this is Morgan.
And Jimmy.
Signing off. Stay creepy.